Welcome to the Grow Strong Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Bell, and I interview business leaders who are committed to their own growth and the development of everyone on their team. If you enjoy my podcast, be sure to subscribe and rate it on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining me today for another episode of the Grow Strong Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Bell, and I am so excited about my guest today. This is one of those situations where I was listening to a podcast, one of my favorites, with my good friend, Mark Silverman, and I happened to be listening to his interview with Mark Murphy. And Mark Murphy started talking about how he was committed to growing people. And of course, my ears perked up because the whole focus of my podcast, Grow Strong Leaders, is for leaders to focus on growing themselves and also others in their world. So, Mark, I want to welcome you to my show. I'm so looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I am too, Meredith. I'm all the interaction we've had in the last couple of months has been just wonderful, and it's nice to be around a smart, brilliant, classy person. So I'm looking forward to our chat.
Thank you. Well, let me introduce you to my guests a little bit more formally. To my audience a little bit more formally first before we get started. Mark is the CEO of Northeast Sequoia Private Client Group, a national financial planning and wealth management firm. He is passionate about empowering entrepreneurs to achieve multi-generational wealth by providing personalized strategies that focus on emotional fitness. And I love that one is first, Mark. I think that's so smart. Wealth accumulation and a plan that can work under all circumstances. His unwavering commitment to delivering a wow experience has earned him a reputation as a trusted expert in the industry. In fact, Mark has been ranked number 1 in New Jersey and number 3 in the nation on the 2023 Forbes America's Top Financial Security Professionals list. He's the host of the Hero of the Hour podcast and the author of 3 books, including his latest, which I have right here and have read and highly recommend. It's called The Ultimate Investment, a roadmap to grow your business and build multi-generational wealth. I think it's a must read for every business leader, Mark. I appreciate all the wisdom you packed into that book. Let's start out with your statement about growing people is key. So I want to know, what do you mean by that, and why do you feel that's so important?
Well, I think that everybody, there's a number of questions that always get asked to me. And one of the questions is, how do I grow my business, or how to grow my income? There's usually 5 questions that are being asked, but the first 2 are usually, how do I grow my income, or how do I grow my business? And what I started to notice was that ultimately, almost coming back from my sports background, is the way you got a team better was that it first started with all the individuals doing the work necessary to become the best at what they do. And I also noticed that I've always believed in coaching. I've always had a coach. I've always recommended that people I work with have a coach. But I also noticed that so many of the people that were business owners, what they used to say is they'd hire somebody like you, Meredith. Hopefully they hired somebody. Hopefully they did hire you. But if they would hire a coach, and their mantra was, "Don't fix me, the leader. It's the problem is everybody else in the organization, not me." And then they kept realizing why they were not getting the results that they were getting. And then as I started to hold the mirror to myself, even though my words may not have been that, my thought process and actions early on in my career was that it was other people I needed. And what I realized is, we always say good leaders create followers. Great leaders create other great leaders. So I always aspired to be a great leader. And I still aspire to be a great leader. And it was amazing that when you become a great leader and do the work you need to be necessary to be a great leader, it's amazing how everybody around you becomes smarter. And it becomes almost like a culture of being able to grow the business. And then everybody's willing to do the work. I always say, you as the leader, you must have the dirtiest key in the office. Meaning you can't ask somebody else to do something you weren't willing to do or you have not done before, or work hard. I can't be taking all kinds of time off or getting massages in the middle of the day or whatever, people who don't work do. I don't know what they do because we work. But I was going to say, ultimately, that I think that's also where you get a lot of your power from. And so it starts with you. I always think it starts where I think other people intrinsically think it starts with their people. And I think you got to start and do the work on yourself. And then I think you prepare yourself to then have each and every one of your employees do that work.
Mm-hmm. When you think about a leader starting with himself or herself, what do you see as the number one area that maybe is a blind spot or that needs work the most in your experience with working with so many leaders?
I think some people have great vision, other people do not have great vision. So they have to start with making sure that they have a vision for their business and for their life. But I think ultimately there's really only a few things you can do in life. There are things that I am crappy at. I am terrible at. That's easy to get rid of. I delegate that to other people. I'm incompetent or terrible or horrible work. I think the hard part is there's a lot of work that leaders do that they're good at, they're competent at, they're okay at. You pull them. I would say competent would be the right word. They're good at doing that work, but they would be better off to have somebody else in the organization or hire somebody else to do that work for them. And I think what you need to do is you need to be able to focus and identify your unique ability. And when you identify your unique ability, I learned that from Dan Sullivan probably 30 years ago. Identifying your unique ability. And then I try to spend 80+% of my time in my unique ability and then hire people to the stuff that I was doing that was competent, for somebody who that was their unique ability. And I think you see, it's not that I think most people, they look around at most successful companies and you look around, Meredith, and you say, well, people are working pretty hard. It's not like, people are playing Candy Crush on their phones and have their feet up on the desk. They're working hard. But I think ultimately they're also doing the same thing when you're talking about growing people is you've got to think that most of the people in every office, they're spending at least 50 or 60% of their time on things that are not their unique ability or not are the most important things in the firm. They're doing things that they do just because that's the way we've done it or just because that's where I'm competent at. And if you get people to focus more on that unique ability, I think that's where you begin the growth.
Mm-hmm. I think that's such an important point. And I'm thinking about people who may not really appreciate what is the unique ability. And with many leaders, they may not realize what theirs are. What are their unique abilities? How did you learn what yours are? And how do you recommend other leaders learn what theirs are so they know what to focus on?
This was when I first did that exercise, and this was probably I was in my 20s when I did it, late 20s, and I was just running my firm. I thought it was my ability to be a critical thinker. I thought it was my ability to collaborate and network and to put people together and all those things. And I asked probably about 10 people in my life, some business, some personal, some of the people that knew me the best. And the answer that came back almost uniformly is they thought my unique ability was making people feel taken care of and taken care of. It was something that simple. It was not all of the what I'll call those complex or strategic things that I thought we were so good at. But that's not why they were. That I didn't think that separated me from it. It was just making people feel taken care of and feel loved. And it's hard now with the Me Too movement. Remember, we did this in the 90s, but we call it our love them up strategy. We just love them up, and I mean that in a very appropriate, non-sexual, non-romantic way. But I mean, you just want to make people feel cared for. You want to make sure that everybody knows that they're special. When you walk into your favorite restaurant and they say, Meredith, please, we have your table for you. And, and after dinner, they come to you and they say, we'd like some dessert. And you say, oh, I'm kind of full. And they go, well, we have that strawberry shortcake you like. Can I bring you a piece, over? I mean, I think it's everybody wants to feel special and everybody wants to feel taken care of. And I think too much, and it's been exacerbated even more because people spend so much of their time texting, emailing, on social media, on other things. And there's not enough human interaction today where people just want to feel acknowledged and feel heard and feel cared about. And so I think that that is a unique ability. There's a lot of superpowers. We're going to talk about superpowers later, but that's a superpower. And I focused on that. And a lot of the things that I do in my office, I've hired people that I used to do, and I used to do them pretty well, I would think, or reasonably well. I've hired people that can do it at a far higher level than I can do it now. I've surrounded myself with people that are much smarter than I am, and it's allowed me to be more expansive in my thinking, and allowed me to be, to take that role more as a visionary and a thought leader than the doer.
Mm-hmm. I so align with what you just said in terms of my own unique ability to care about people and have them feel that. So thank you for sharing that, because sometimes that's not seen necessarily as a superpower in the context of business, where we're, working hard to move our businesses forward. But like you say, growing the people, growing yourself is so important. So if you were to advise some other business owner or leader on how to discover their own unique ability, it sounds like asking others about their perceptions would be one valuable step that they could take. Is there anything else that you would advise them to do to really zero in on those things that they alone are especially good at?
Well, at least for me, and in my experience has been that when you start out in a business, an entrepreneurial business, you do everything. And you do everything. You clean the toilets and mop the floors, and you do everything that you need to do, because in the beginning when you're growing a business. And I think that the thing that you do is, I think you have to critically look at what you do. I don't know if it's an annual basis, could be a semi-annual basis, could be on a regular basis. And I think what I see the very best leaders and the very best companies do is the best leaders do less and less things every year, but they do it more in elegance and excellence. That the level of improvement is to the naked eye may not be great, but there is a tremendous difference between mediocre, good, excellent, and elite. And so that, and the idea is, I think that what you also have to do is you also have to start by telling yourself the truth, because I think everybody aspires to be elite, but most people are only doing the work of mediocre, good, or excellent. As Lisa always tells me, I've stolen her line where she said, and I say this all the time to our folks, what are you willing to do that you're not doing now to have what you don't have? And so, the idea is, I think people, I think people, you've got to show them what a great job looks like. You've got to show them what an elite performance looks like. And then you've got to give them the tools so that if they're willing, you can't motivate people, but you can show them what elite looks like. And then they have the opportunity to go grab the brass ring or not. And some people do, some people don't. So although I think sometimes when, maybe you'll see people talk and they'll give a very motivational talk and people want to, run out the door and, kill everybody. That lasts to me about an hour, maybe a day if you're lucky. That I think, what you need to teach people is discipline. You need to teach them focus. You need to show them what falling in love with the mundane is. There's an element of that. Falling in love with the mundane, meaning you have something that works every time. Why are you reinventing that piece? Why would you not do that over and over and over again? Meaning, if you're going to have surgery today and they're going to take out your appendix, you want the doctor's done it 10,000 times. That's why you hired this surgeon, and they do it exactly this way. Maybe when they get in there, they're a little different because my appendix may be a little different than your appendix, but the procedure is the same. And so I want my doctor to say, well, instead of going through the stomach, we're going to go in through the foot today, or we're going to go in through the, because we want to mix it up a little bit and try something different. And I'm thinking to myself, I think there's an element of falling in love with the mundane. And I'm a big believer in Malcolm Gladwell, in the sense that, to create mastery, you've got to put your 10,000 hours in. I don't care what a prodigy you are, or how smart you are, or how willing to work you are. You got to put your time in. You've got to get your reps in to create mastery in your position.
So, Mark, when you are looking to bring somebody on board, I'm curious, what are the things from the 7 core values that you identified in your book? How do you identify what values they have if they're going to be a good match? What do you look for the most?
Um, First of all, I look for skills that you can't teach, meaning that there are certain things you can't. I'm a rabid Indiana University basketball fan, and so you can coach up some really good players and have a good team. But if you're going to try to win a national championship, you have to have some people that have some incredible length. I mean, they're very tall. They've got to be able to jump out of the gym. They've got to have NBA abilities. And if you don't have a couple of NBA players, you're not going to have any chance to get to the Final Four, or a very small chance to get to the Final Four. I think it's that I'm looking for people that have qualities that are not teachable in terms of what they do. That's number one. Number two, I think it's more about when you talk about growing business and growing people. I think it's also about bringing people into a culture. And so my 7 core values are not the right core values. They just happen to be my core values. And so the idea is when I look for somebody and I sit down with them, Meredith, and you mentioned the word wow. When I would sit down and if I was going to interview you and I'd say, if you don't wake up every day want to create not only an experience, but a wow experience for a client, you are going to be miserable here. And the people outside my office are going to hate your guts because that's what they do every day to go do it. You're going to be ostracized here because that's what this organization does. So if you don't wake up totally jazzed about that every day, this is not the place for you. Or when you're dealing with people's money, there's emotional fitness involved. You may see people that could be rationally or irrationally upset. And how do you have the ability to stay emotionally fit and be able to help them and work through that problem so when you finish that conversation, they're in a great place? I also look for, it's interesting, there are 4 types of intelligence. Um, and and so do I want people with high IQs? I do. I want people that are smart, but they have to be smart enough, not necessarily brilliant. I want them smart, but not smart enough. I think in our world, there's the other 3 types of intelligence are more important. Many people think the second type of intelligence, and it's pretty, most people know that it's called EQ, emotional quotient. And so it's, can I tell it, is Meredith with me? Is she following me? Is she angry? Is she upset? Is the ability to read a room and read somebody. It's incredibly powerful to be able to go do that because there are so many people that just go on oblivious to what the other person on the other side of the coin is. Just a skill that it's hard to teach, but when you have it, it is a gift from God. The third skill of intelligence is social quotient. When you walk in the room, do people like you? Do people enjoy spending time with you? And that's an intelligence in itself, and that's a very valuable tool. But the one that I find that is least known about, and where I think that it may be as important, if not more important than the other 3, is adversity quotient. When everything is going just swimmingly, everybody's a superstar, everything is great, it's all sunshine and roses. But when adversity hits, how do you flip the script or flip the table so that you take that and turn that problem into an opportunity? How do you take that person how do you turn lemons into lemonade? And the idea is that skill is a skill that is incredibly valuable in terms of how people do, because, quite frankly, there's a lot of people that I think more than not, when adversity comes, instead of them looking to flip the script, they become very defensive. They become angry. They blow the deal up. They do all these other things. And I find that people that can keep their emotional fitness together and have adversity quotient as one of their core intelligence, that's something I look for. Does that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense. And I think you're absolutely right. So I'm just guessing, tell me if I'm right, that when you are interviewing people, you're asking them to share examples that would show you how they have demonstrated this in the past. So you know that it's actually a capability that they're bringing to you. Is that on track?
Yeah, I think that is true. It's so funny that when you go to business school, that has been the challenge is because never took a class that told me how to interview and find the best talent. So part of it is it's a lot of trial and error by just saying that a few things. One is the golden rule, I would just do unto others that they would do to you. I just want to treat people like I'd like to be treated. I think I want to be, I am the same. One of the reasons I have so much energy is that I'm the same every day, no matter where I am. It doesn't take a lot of energy to be me. It takes a lot of energy to be somebody else.
Mm.
And I think that what I've also learned is that, when you have people, that you find that money is an issue. I'm not saying money is an issue. You have to pay people competitively. But I think that the other thing I try to do is I try to have our people always learning and growing. Because, and I also try to create a culture where people want to be around the folks we're in. We have an environment that people want to be around. And then I also want people to be a subject matter expert or be a thought leader or be something on some subject. I want them to own something. And so that's sort of been our formula, not only to take people and develop them, but to make sure they have long careers and can stay here and continue to contribute to the organization and to help make the lives of of everybody they touch improved. And so that's sort of been our magic sauce. And I also think that, if you read Gino Wickman's book, Traction, that get it, want it, and have capability is the prism I look through. Do they get what we're doing and what makes us special? Do they want to be with us, not because we're 5 minutes from their house or because they don't have a better opportunity, but do they want to be with us? And the C, with proper training, you're analyzing, do they have the capability to do the job?
Yeah, those three elements I think are so important. I love the fact that you're looking at providing these kinds of growth opportunities on an ongoing basis. It's not a one and done kind of thing. And I'm curious the role of coaching with people. When you are wanting to give them these opportunities to grow and learn, how you coach them and interact with them is to me, an important part of that. What's your philosophy or approach on coaching people, both you and other folks on your team who have that role?
I learned that, it's funny. I learned this from my dear friend and business partner, Bernie Stoltz, years ago. He's the CEO and founder of Fortune Management. And again, would be an amazing guest for your podcast. But he is, he always talks about a class 3 experience. And the class 3 experience is, it's got to be great for our client first. It's got to be great for our team second, and it's got to be great for us third. And you look for that prism. Like, I am not willing to remember the first book, and he and I did our first book together. It was on mergers and acquisitions about 8 years ago. And it was called The Win-Win Guide, the Deal Maker's Guide to Buying and Selling Dental Practices. We expanded to every vertical known to man. But having said that, I don't want to be in a transaction at this point in my life where for me to win, you have to lose, or for you to win, I have to lose. I want to develop something everybody could do better together than they can apart. And we could design something that truly is a win-win. And those are the kind of relationships and opportunities that I want to be part of.
And so when you are developing your own people, I would assume that's just a key piece of the focus you want them to have, whether they're creating a deal or just providing wow experiences for your clients, that looking for ways to make it a win for them and for your company.
As we've gotten larger, when it was, in the beginning, when there was only a handful of us, it was easier on one level, and on another level, as we've gotten larger, I still sign off on every hire, and I'm still involved, depending on the position, in every process, because I am a true believer in that one bad apple, even in a large organization, can spoil the whole bunch. Meaning one person's behavior or attitude can become a cancer on the entire organization. And I think the best way to avoid that is to not let them in the organization at the first, from the start. You can get rid of them, but the best way is not to let them in. I don't want roaches in my house. I can get rid of them with an exterminator. The better way is to make sure they don't get into my house in the very first place. And I'm not comparing people to cockroaches or anything like that. They're all good people, but they don't have, when they don't have our core values or they don't believe what we believe, they're of little utility and can only be harmful to the organization. Meaning, if we have a vision of we want to improve the lives of everybody we touch, if that's what we want to wake up every day to go do that. And if there are people that just want to punch a clock or want to do it the way they want to do it, or don't are not great team players, it's all about them. They're not going to fit in here. That's not our culture. Now, quite frankly, if they're very talented, there might be a lot of other organizations that would open the doors with the great gusto and arms and welcome them into their organization. That's not going to work here.
Mhm.
And the more I know that, and when I make a mistake, Meredith, and we make mistakes, is I make a mistake because I forgot those principles. Every time that I lead, if you read Ray Dalio's book, most recent book, which the name is escaping me for a minute, where he talked about being the largest money manager in the world. I don't know. I think he manages several $100 billion, more by far. Principles, I think it is. They run their money, and we run our strategies based on science, and it's a scientific approach. But with people, sometimes we do it based on personalities. And ultimately, I think when you run everything based on your core values and principles, that's when you consistently get the results that you want. And I think you've got to, I think that's another lesson that we've learned the hard way over time.
Mm-hmm. No, I appreciate your openness about the fact that you don't have it right still. We're always learning and growing. And to me, that ties in with one of the other areas you've talked about as a superpower, which is vulnerability. I would love to hear you say, how do you define that? And what would that look like for a leader so that because some people are afraid of being vulnerable, I've seen, for fear of looking weak, or being not respected, whereas the reverse is what often happens. So I'd love for you to talk more about that.
Well, by the way, as we get to know each other, I am one of the kindest people that you will ever meet. But if you mess with me, I am one of the toughest people you will ever meet. And I rarely show that side. And if I do show that side to you, Meredith, you will have said, oh, I deserve that, or I've done, I have poked the bear and I have done something that has crossed the line on that piece, but I don't see any reason. That's not my normal state. My normal state is kindness. And I think as a leader, I think the idea is that we're all humans. And I think that the idea is that I think hubris is the ruination of all who have it. The expression I like to use, if I think you're a little too full of yourself, and I would say, Meredith, she looks in the mirror every day and loves what she sees. Meaning she is mad, she's in love with herself, with her and all her decisions and all the things that are there. And I think with people is that I think it all starts by telling the truth. And so, when you tell people that, when you've made a mistake, I don't double down on the mistake. I'll sit back with my team and I'll say to them, I made the call here. This call was wrong. Let me start by apologizing to you that I made the wrong call. I came with I probably would have made the same decision had I had the same information at the time, but it didn't work. And I'm going to apologize. I'm going to clean up my mess, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I want to create a culture where people can make mistakes, because remember, if I had not done, remember that what you want to have a culture, in my opinion, where failure is just another form of market research. Failure is just one step closer to success. Failure is that because we had not done two or three things that didn't work, we wouldn't have done two or three other things that helped us make tens of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And so nothing ventured, nothing gained. And I think you want it. So that's why I say bold is vulnerability is a superpower, because I think that vulnerability creates a culture where people are willing to take calculated risks and realizing that not everything works. Because if you play it too safe, you're never going to perform at the elite level. You're never going to be the best of the best. You're going to play it nice, safe, and I mean, as if you follow football, the only way to lose a game when you're up in the fourth quarter is to play prevent defense. We want to stay on offense. We want to be able to continue to innovate and be one step ahead of everybody else. I don't want to I don't want to I don't want to have a seat at the table. I want to build my own table.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be, I do not want to uh I just want to continue to think that that we could play in a competition free zone where the only place that person could get that experience is by working with our firm. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying that there are not some things that you have to do that are at an elite level, but there's other people that can play at that level. Every day I wake up thinking, what can we do so that the only choice a reasonable person would make would be to work with us? And that's the culture that we want. And I keep working on that and working on that and working on that. And that's what consumes me all the time, so that I'm able to, provide that advantage to our firm, as opposed to, who wants to compete? I mean, who wants to? I don't believe in competition, Meredith. I believe in differentiation. How do I help our firm and our clients differentiate themselves from everybody else on the planet? And if I've done that, that's a good day. And I've helped a lot of people, and we've done some good work.
I love that. I love everything you just said. And it reminded me of something else that you had written in the book that I wanted to touch on, and that has to do with self-confidence. This idea that it's so important to preserve the self-confidence of the people who work with you and also of yourself. I'm just curious, tying in with this vulnerability piece where people are willing to own up to mistakes or a decision they made, and tying that in with it could lead to a loss of confidence if it weren't responded to well. So what are some of the things that you do to help people keep that confidence level high? Because that's what's going to drive them to take risks, right?
Remember, I believe one of our core values is being humble but confident. So you don't want to, anybody who starts to believe in their own BS, the world has a way of telling them you're not all that. So humility is first and foremost. But I think the number one job of an entrepreneur or an entrepreneurial thinking person is to protect his or her confidence. You cannot allow somebody else to tie up space in your head. And I think, one of the things, people accuse me of brainwashing people in our organization because they know that I believe, and I believe they believe, that if we do what we do well, we will win every time. And that if somebody chooses, which doesn't happen that often, but if somebody chooses not to work with us, we don't feel sorry for we don't feel sorry for ourselves. We don't feel defeated. We don't feel like we've been rejected. We feel that we feel that, listen, that poor bastard, they chose not to have the Northeast Private Client Group experience. Now whether that's true or not, it serves us well, because we believe we could have made a difference in their lives. And if they chose to go in another direction, and by the way, it's the craziest thing where I've had people, it hasn't happened very often. I mean, we have 4,000 clients, so it's only probably happened 3 or 4 times, where a couple of times people said they were leaving, and a couple of times people said they were not coming, and the way I handled them not coming made them come, which I didn't do it to manipulate the situation. But if you and I were doing business and we truly have a relationship, and I truly care about you and your well-being, not only for your business, Meredith, but for your family and for your life and everything. If I'm truly an empathetic person who cares about you, and you said, you know what, Mark, we've decided to make a change and we're not going to be working with your firm anymore. My reaction would be the same reaction. I would feel the same way about you tomorrow as I did the day before yesterday when you were a client. Meaning, if I saw you in the supermarket, I'd give you a hug and ask how the family was. Or, if I saw you at the Knick game on Friday night, I'd buy you and your husband a beer. Meaning it would be, I just wish you well. I'm disappointed, obviously, that you're leaving. I'm not going to say, oh, this is great, but I'm going to handle it in elegance and excellence. And I'm going to, if you choose to be someplace else, I want you to be there. That my reaction, how I feel about you, is not dependent. Where I think most people are the exact opposite. Screw her. She's, like all the places there. And I truly come from a place of abundance. And, it's not like there's, I'm not going to allow you to change. Now, will I look at the reason maybe you wanted to leave? Do I ignore that? Or do I certainly wouldn't, and if there's something there that we have not done right, I want to get that cleaned up fast to make sure it never happens again. So it's not like I'm ignoring it. but also at the same time, I'm not going to allow you to control how I feel about myself, going forward.
Mhm.
You want people to, you want people to feel that if you've done something well and somebody decided they didn't want it, that's okay. Remember, the mindset of an entrepreneur, Meredith, is regardless of the situation, you are never the seller, you're always the buyer. You're giving everybody the opportunity to have the Meredith Bell experience. And if they choose not to take it, that's okay. You're not, even though I know you're proud to sell all of the wonderful services that your firm provides. You're giving them the opportunity to have that. And if they chose not to take it, that's okay.
Mhm.
As opposed to, it's always from a place of abundance. There'll be other people that want that service. And, my mind immediately, and what we train our guys, because some of the people we have are young, very smart young people, can be very emotional. We train our people to say, what's great about that? So as an
Mhm.
example, if one of the guys today breaks up with their girlfriend or boyfriend, I think it's okay to properly, if you want to mourn the relationship, for a day or two or for a couple of days or, whatever. I'm not putting a timetable on it. But the idea is, and again, it's sad, particularly for whatever reason. But then I want your mind to immediately snap into what's great about that. This person was not the right person for me. Eventually I'd like to get married and have kids. And I'm making it up. Eventually I'd like to get married and have kids. And this person was not going to be somebody I was going to marry. So what's great about that is now that frees up all the time for me to go find somebody who's the right person for me, or to spend some more time with my friends who I've kind of ignored because of this relationship, or it will allow me to get back to the gym or get back to, tennis or get back to whatever passion that I had. So what's great about that? And focus on that. And it's okay to mourn the relationship, but to be, for that to take you off your game for 6 months is not acceptable.
Mhm.
You don't allow somebody to tie that up in your head. And again, not that I'm unfeeling. I am very empathetic and emotional, but I think you've got to have emotions that serve you.
Mhm.
And I think so many people sabotage themselves because of they have reactions and emotions that do not serve them.
Mhm. The thread running through everything you've just said around that, Mark, and self-confidence is not taking personally things that happen, whether it's a person who says no or an event that happens that was unexpected. It's not blaming or reacting in a way that's looking at why me and victim, but taking ownership and looking at what could I create from this, given that this is what happened. I think that's such a powerful and important perspective to have.
The one thing I don't want the people who are watching this or listening to this to misunderstand is I take it very personally. So if you were to leave our firm, I would take it very personally internally. Internally, I'd be very upset. I'd want to know first of all, I'd love to try to save the opportunity. I'd like to find out what happened. I'd love you to continue to stay, but if you decide, and I'd like to learn from what happened to make sure that we did not do that. What happened that would cause you to leave? But the way I treated you, or I thought about you, or I respected you, would be, I would wish you continued love, success, and happiness, and I want you to have a great life, and let you know that I'm here for you if you need me. You know, that doesn't mean that I'm internally not, not, but I wouldn't let it affect my confidence. We're going to get it fixed. If there's something, and by the way, sometimes sometimes it has nothing to do. I think a lot of times people put too much emphasis on um, other people's reactions that have nothing to do with them.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that meaning the reason you left wasn't because of anything we did. The reason you left is because your brother now does what we do, and you're going to take and you want to give the business to your brother who is not ready for prime time, but family's first, and you're going to do everything you can to help your brother. And my reaction to that was, have your brother give me a call. Have him call my cell phone. Let me see if I can try to help him get up to speed on business, and let's see if we can help him. Help him really grow his business. He can call me anytime he wants.
Mm-hmm.
I know you love him so much. That's fine. You go with my blessing. It's like, I'll help your brother. It's not, a lot of people have helped me. Why, you always, you never know that. Remember, when you remember, what's the great legacy that we all have is that if you pour into people, not for months or not for years, but for decades, you have an army of people that want to come back for you. And so the idea is that life is long, life is short, and life is long, depending on how you look at it. But at the end of the day, that's okay. You control how you act and how you feel, and you want to, and other people make decisions for good and bad and wacky reasons, and you don't want that to affect how you feel about yourself, because most of the time it has nothing to do with you.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's what I meant about not taking it personally. It's often not about. As we wrap up, I want to tie into something you were just talking about related to legacy. What is it you would want to be remembered for?
I think that I want to improve the lives of everybody that we touch. I've said that 3 or 4 times in that thing, meaning, and the idea, what I look back on the fact that I am one person, and and you're one person, so there's only so much that one person can do. But can we create an organization, a community, a mindset where we have tens of thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people, maybe beyond that can make a difference in the lives of the people that they touch? And can my time on this planet be a place where I've improved everybody, where I've improved the folks, not only the folks that work for me. I take so much pride in the fact that not just the work we've done with clients, but I take pride in the fact that because of what we've created here, financed by Visa, because no bank would give me a loan in 1985, that was my bank. I get the biggest kick out of I get the biggest kick as I got the first Black American Express card. And in 1986, American Express was canceling my card if I couldn't pay the bill that day, because I had no money. I grew up dumb and broke in Suffolk, New York, and there was no salary in place. I had to sing for my supper. And I think I feel back is that I would just love the legacy to be that he made a difference. He just made a difference, and he helped people, and that they think back, and if something good happened in their life, like they were able to pay their mortgage or have the house they wanted, or they were able to send their kid to the right school, or they were able to do the things because of what we've created. That would just make me smile, because it's never about the money. I mean, the money, if you're chasing money, Meredith, there's never enough. But when you believe that you're on a mission, that Ren, the 15th century philosopher, said there were 3 types of stone cutters, and I think there are 3 types of entrepreneurs today. And Ren said that there were stone cutters who cut stone to feed their family, and there are clearly in every industry people that would do that. And Ren also said that there was another group of stone cutters who cut stone because they were very talented and artistic stone cutters, and we see people in every industry that meet that category as well. But he also said that there was another group of stone cutters that thought they were building a temple for God. And I think that every day I want to wake up and see if I can play my small role at building that temple and making the world a little bit better place to live in. And that's what I'd hope my legacy would be.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. I have so enjoyed this conversation. I love who you are being in the world, and the fact that you clearly come from a place of love and service and caring. And I admire what you've built in your company and the impact, the ripple effect you're having on so many people's lives. Would you please let people know how they can connect with you, learn about your business, and also get a copy of your wonderful book, The Ultimate Investor?
Well, if they do buy a book, I would love them to write a review. So, they could say something like something kind of low key, like there's only 3 books ever written: the Bible, the Torah, and the Ultimate Investment. No, I'm just kidding. But you can reach me at Mark is spelled with a K, Mark_Murphy at northeastpipeline.com. And I'd love to hear from you. And all I can tell you is that we smell our own. You are my sister from another mother, and I just appreciate having you in my life. It's been relatively recent, but I just have a sneaking suspicion that we're going to collaborate and do a lot of great things in the world together. And I look forward to that adventure with you together.
Thank you, Mark. So do I. Thank you for being with me today.
Thanks for tuning into my podcast. Now head over to growstrongleaders.com And check out our 2 books, Connect with Your Team and Peer Coaching Made Simple. While you're there, download the free Facilitator Guide to find out how to implement our unique peer coaching system. Until next time, I'm Meredith Bell.